Hey, y'all, thanks again for listening to Drew Tessier's Mostly Queer Comedy Podcast. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review. You can follow me at Drew Tessier NYC. And if you want to see it live, you can watch this on YouTube. Thanks, y'all. It's Drew Tessier's Mostly Queer Comedy Show. Let's talk, y'all. Hey, y'all. Welcome to another episode of Drew's Mostly Queer Comedy Podcast. Today's the day that it's going to really work out for us the way I named the show, because it's mostly queer, it's mostly comedy, it's however we want to do mostly. This is the first time we're going to kind of take the show in a different direction. I'm joined here today with Travis Holp, who is not a stand-up comedian, although very funny. We've been hanging out and chatting, getting ready for this. He is actually a world-famous queer medium to the stars. Am I getting that sort of right there?
You can call me whatever you want. But yes, I am a medium, and I do celebrity readings, so that's super accurate.
Cool. He and I actually met a couple years ago. I think we chatted briefly on Christian Mingle or something like that.
Farmers Only, for sure.
And ended up not meeting that go-round. And then this trip, he's back in New York doing all sorts of... It is he, correct?
Doing some like PR stuff.
So he has been doing tons of press
stuff.
Sorry,
my hearing went way out.
Doing tons of press stuff that we can't talk about yet, but stay tuned because it's really exciting. But in that period of time, just since because you said you thought it was like Halloween when you were in New York last.
It would have been Halloween 2022, which is when like I left my corporate job. I'd been doing readings, but like I left my corporate job like a month before that and was like fully on my own.
And I think, although you and I did not end up linking up in person that trip, we became Instagram friends. I think at the time you had like 7,000 followers or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, how many do you have now?
I have 281,000 very close personal friends. And that started like, it was 2 months later, I just started posting some just reels, and they just organically exploded.
I love that.
And it's so fun. And it happened very quickly. That was never like my goal has never been like a bunch of Instagram followers. My goal has always just been to serve.
Right.
But I ain't mad at it. So
it's funny because I think being in the comedy world, I know so many people, that are just trying to throw shit against the fan to find what is that video that's going to be the thing and the two girls, if they're watching this, I love you to pieces. I mean, just last night, two different comics have decided their thing is going to be trying different cookies. So they were filming me trying cookies in the back of a comedy club in between sets last night. But again, just trying to find something to get traction. So I love the fact that you are just doing what you feel you're here to be doing, and it caught on, and that's really exciting. I mean, I think no matter what your field is.
Yeah, it's you never know with social media what that video is going to be, right? For me, it was just I had been posting on TikTok for a while. Mm-hmm. TikTok was a great platform. It's where I started back in 2020, and I got really great number of followers there, but that just kind of stalled out for me, and so I was just sitting in my office one day and I was like, let me just like post what I've been posting on TikTok, but just like on Instagram. And Instagram was never a platform that I used to really talk about my mediumship. And I was like, well, let's just do it. Let's just see what happens.
Right.
And then it did. Like my Instagram was like a thirstagram where it was very like stereotypical, like gay male in his 30s, right? Like a gym selfie with some type of inspirational quote underneath of it. Or like save the earth with like me and my underwear, and so so I started posting about what I do as a medium, and it just kind of exploded when I started showing up more authentically in that way.
I mean, I think given some of the guests I've already interviewed and some I have coming down the pike, I mean, to hear. And then when I quit doing the thirst traps is when my Instagram, what a refreshing story to hear.
It was
really
nice.
Has been sort of the opposite. For most of the people that I've talked about, because it's just been like, I put one in a towel and that got X amount of likes, and then and it just sort of going down the path towards OnlyFans. But I love your story. I want to circle back to the social media in a second, but the your experience with being a medium, how did that? So at what age did that start taking place for you?
You know what? As long as I can remember, I make this like joke, but it's like kind of like not a joke. My grandmother and I, we used to play with a Ouija board. The joke is like, oh, the devil got in my body, and that's why I'm here where I am. But that's not true. But no, no, we did. My grandmother would carry crystals, and we'd play at the Ouija board, and I just kind of always thought that like everybody could talk to their loved ones who had crossed over or could sense other people's energy. And it's kind of like my journey of being gay. Like, I just thought everyone was.
Right.
And then, growing up in Ohio, I realized like, oh, not everyone is. And I'm going to hell for not one, but two things now. So so that part of myself, I hid that part of me that was intuitive, because I was always told that I was too sensitive. And I found out, like, I'm not too sensitive. I just feel energy. And I think that's a natural way of being for a lot of people. But I just think sometimes in our society, we label those people as too sensitive or whatever, right? So I suppressed that. And then I came out, and then I was like, let's just share one thing at a time.
Yeah. I don't want to be greedy.
Yeah, I don't want to be greedy. But I always had like anxiety or this sense of like feeling like I wasn't alone in my room. And when I was a kid, I would run to my parents' room screaming in the middle of the night because I could like sense things. And, so I suppressed it for a long, long time. And it wasn't until later on in my life, in my late 20s, where those abilities just started popping back up in ways that I could ignore.
Was that when it?
Well, I would get drunk and then read my friends' tarot cards and then be like, your grandmother is standing over there. And, so it would come out when I was drunk. And then my friends were like, do you remember like what you said to me while you were drunk? Like, you said some pretty specific things about my grandmother. How did you know that? And so, once I got sober and I was like seeing psychics myself and talking to them like, hey, I've experienced like this sensitivity my whole life, or these kinds of dreams, or like, oh yeah, you're a medium, like no big deal. like no big deal. And so once I got sober, I started pursuing what possibilities could be there for me to lean into those abilities, and it's been an amazing journey.
So you described it as a feeling. So like when you were a little boy, like do you see auras? Is that part of it? Is it a color thing? It's because you describe it more like it's an internal feeling type thing.
Yeah. So like when I'm feeling energy, I feel it right in the area that would be considered like our solar plexus chakra. So it's right below the center of the chest where the heart is, but right above the navel. So like right about here. And I used to think that was anxiety. And it wasn't. It was just me feeling energy, but my mind was processing it as anxiety. So I'll get a feeling. I'll just get this feeling. Some people call it like their gut feeling. That's actually where our intuition is. When people say follow your gut, they mean follow your intuition. So that energy comes through in a very similar way, whether it's from someone else, whether it's from somebody that's in non-physical. So that's how I feel it. And then once I kind of say, okay, let me just open up into that, let me ease into that energy, then more and more comes with that.
And so when was the first time, I guess you talked about when you were, so it wasn't until you were a little older and then through alcohol sort of allowing yourself to sort of express that to other people, which is interesting that there is sort of the duality of the homosexuality and the kind of there's so much sort of in common with those two feelings and allowing yourself to express that. But that's when you would start doing readings for friends? Or?
Yeah, I would just like I would get drunk and I'd be like, 3 drinks in, I'd be like, who wants a tarot reading? And so, so that was just a part of me that I would just kind of hide away. And then, but like a lot of people do, right? A lot of people hide their authentic selves. And then when they have a substance like alcohol or drugs or whatever, then they feel free to express that. Right. So it was no different for me in that regard. So I always say, I've come out of 2 closets. I came out of the gay closet and I've come out of the broom closet.
And so what was one of the earliest kind of like, oh, fuck, kind of something that came through in a reading, sober or otherwise, that was like, oh, this is actually real.
Thing. Yeah. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, and there's a lot of historical homes there. And one night, my friend and I, my best friend, there was this guy at the bar, and the guy was like, "You guys should come home with me." And my friend was fully planning on, like, snuggling, and I was just along for the ride because he drove.
Right, right,
and
right.
so, like, by proxy, I'm staying in the guest room, and so we get in this home, and it's this beautiful historical home, and I am 3 sheets to the wind, and I sit down in the middle of this home. It's this big, beautiful Victorian home. I sit down in the middle of it. I'm like, 2 women used to live here. Their names were Sarah and blah blah blah, and they died this way. And the guy that owns the house was like, "How did you know that?" And I was like, "They told me." And my friend is like, "Am I getting laid or what's happening?" And so his friend grabs the house ledger, and he goes, "No, that, like, they owned the house."
Wow.
And so, after that, I kind of tucked it away for a bit. But then, eventually, it eventually ends up coming out anyway.
So they told you. That's a whisper in the ear. That's a sense. I just now have this knowledge, like it's been downloaded.
Yeah, it's like you just kind of just know it. Like it just kind of pops in your head, and it just comes in, and then you share it, and then it just goes out as quickly as it came in.
That is amazing. I mentioned this to you. So to sort of, again, we gave you a quick sort of background of how we never met, but we just met for the first time tonight. And we had I had a comedy show. I've done 3 open mics and a comedy show today, and then met him downtown, got in a taxi with a stranger, rode uptown. Here we are.
The gay experience, really.
The gay experience. So far, nobody has been decapitated. I do not have a therapist. However, I have been talking to the same psychic for about 20 years.
Yeah.
And I don't think he would want me to use that term. I don't, did you go through this as far as, like, not wanting a title or not liking the word psychic or medium or any specific?
There are so many parallels, I kid you not, to, like, my coming out journey
as
well as my spiritual journey.
I love that.
So, like, it was the same thing. Like, when I came out, I was like, am I gay? Am I gay? Like, like gayer? Like, because I think, like, in spirituality and sexuality, everything is a spectrum. I'm just, like, on the way far end of the spectrum. So when I came out of the broom closet, I did struggle with the title. I'm like, what do I call myself? And so, I use the term psychic and medium, or sometimes I just say medium, sometimes I say psychic medium. I think for me, if there's people who like to call themselves intuitives or they call themselves other things, but I read something in one of my most favorite books by Matt Aron. It's called Psychic Witch, and he talks about the words psychic and witch and how people are so averse to them because of just our society and the way that we've kind of created these ideas around these words. And he said it so beautifully that when you water down these words, you water down the gifts that come with them. So I don't run away from words like psychic or witch. I think a psychic is simply somebody who just experiences energy that's outside of their own. A medium is somebody who's just a bridge between this world and the next. And so if you're all mediums are psychic, not all psychics are mediums. So sometimes I just say medium, sometimes I say psychic medium, depending on who I'm talking to.
Right.
Yeah.
It's wild. I mean, and I think there are times that because again, I've worked with this guy forever, and he's a life coach, he's a spiritual guider, he's, really sort of taught me the value of living a life of service and helping other people, and sort of, if you can make your goal not reaching your own, but trying to help other people reach theirs, sort of. But there are times that I will be talking to him the same way I'm talking to you about another person, as though we've both known them for 20 years, and then have to remind myself this guy has never met this person before. But it's just wild how some people can kind of tap into that other wave.
I think we all can.
He says that too.
Yeah.
And again, believes in meditation.
Yeah.
But he says it's like learning. There's a piano over here. I'm pointing at a piano. But learning an instrument, that it's just something that can be developed.
Totally. I think we all can, but I think we all can in the way that, like, we can all sing. Some of us can do it professionally, and some should probably just do it in the car, right? But we can all do it. I think people can connect in with their own loved ones. They can connect in with their own guides and angels. They can tap into their own energy for manifestation or conscious creation. I believe that with my whole heart. I don't believe everybody needs to go out and do it professionally.
Right.
But I believe that people can do it for themselves. And I think that's ultimately the purpose that folks like me serve, is that we're here to help teach people how to do that, how to connect in with themselves, to live the life that they truly want to live.
And this is your full-time gig now?
Full time.
So what was before this? What was...
Oh my God, I was in the beauty industry for 17 years.
Okay.
And if you want some crazy ass stories...
I worked in corporate retail. So
oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I was in the beauty retail for 17 years.
Yeah, awful.
And I started as a makeup artist, and then I went into sales, and, I loved it. I had such a great time. But, that was like the abusive relationship. You don't know what you're in until you're out of it, right? I leave, and I was like, oh my God, I have an alcohol and pill problem. Where did that come from? And so, so I was grateful to leave. I'm grateful for that time, and I'm so grateful because I needed to go through all that stuff to be where I'm at now.
Sure. So when, how... Were you doing readings and before the social media aspect came into it? Were you just doing one-on-one?
No. You know what's so funny? I do not recommend doing this at home, kids. I had left my job in September of 2020, and I was laid off because of...
so this all has been really recent.
Yeah, it has. It's been the last 3.5, 4 years. Wow. And so... during the pandemic, I was laid off in September of 2020, and I just kind of floated around for a couple of months. And then late October, I just had noticed there were all these tarot readers on TikTok and all these spiritual folks. And I had done a reading with a psychic that I loved, and she was like, I'd saved up all my money, and I'd gotten this reading with her, and she was like, you need to just start doing it. And I was like, okay. So I posted a reading of me reading tarot on TikTok, and the video just exploded. And then I had people messaging me do you do readings professionally? And I'm like, I do now.
So was that was that a generalized reading? Because that's...
Yeah, I was using cards. And specific stuff was still coming through. I didn't know how it was coming through. So it was kind of I was doing what I was doing, but I didn't know how I was doing it. And so I immediately, I'm a Virgo through and through, and I don't know if you know much about Virgos, but we are okay, perfect. Beyonce is a Virgo. We're just, very we have to do everything.
And my boyfriend's very intuitive too.
Yeah, of course. The boyfriend's sitting over there. And so anyway, I started reading every book on mediumship I could get my hands on. I started taking classes. I hired mentors and coaches. And I still invest in my own education because I think I'm always the student, always. But yeah, and so it started with cards, and then now I just do full spirit mediumship or connecting into other people's energy. I don't use tools. I'm not against tools. I just don't use them.
So the first reading, which is still sort of your format for a lot of how you do. I mean, is it because you're not reading one specific person? I mean, when
on Instagram,
right?
Yeah.
But so what is that you're reading? You're taking the blood pressure of the world at large. I mean, what is it you're usually talking about on these if they're not already following you?
Yeah, so typically what I do is it's called a channeled message. So I just kind of ask my guides, ask the universe, what's something that a lot of people need to hear right now? And sometimes it's things I need to hear, truthfully. But so I'll just ask, and I'll just open myself up, and I'll just start. I give my intro, where I tell people, hi, my name is Travis. I'm a medium, and if you don't believe in mediums, just consider me your gay uncle who knows a lot of shit. So, so get folks from all backgrounds, right? But no, and then I just share what just kind of comes up, or if I see a commonality in readings, or if something comes up during a reading, I'll throw that in. But it's more so just channeled of what people need to hear. And
then I guess obviously once that platform started to grow for you, then do you do individual readings for people in person? Is it over the phone? How does that
So yeah, I do a lot of readings over Zoom, and then repeat clients can come to my home. Gotta get a couple people in my home couple times, just because I like getting people in my space and being able to read for them in person. But for the most part, it's a lot of Zoom readings.
And you and I had chatted on the way up here. You said, which I found very interesting, especially take the psychic part of it aside. Just running a business,
Yeah.
that you don't see the need to have sort of repeat service with so you don't have people that you're talking to every day. Oh my God, what do I need to do for it? So you feel like your work is sort of done almost in a single session often.
Yeah, I do. I feel like I feel like in these sessions are very healing. Healing to me is just a word that simply expresses bringing people back to their sense of wholeness. And so I don't want to see people on a repeated basis because for me, I feel like I'm not doing them a true service. So I think a session with a medium or a psychic, what a lot of people can take from it is that sense of peace, that sense of healing, and continue that. And that's what I teach all of my clients. Like, you came in today, here's how you continue it. Now, not to say people don't come back to see me, because they certainly do. Yeah. And I have, I've got a therapist and a psychic. And, so I like a good check-in every now and again. But it's never been my goal to see people weekly or monthly. I want to see people, help them figure out what they are wanting to heal, and then send them on their way and hopefully never see them again.
Another interesting thing that you and I chatted about, because there is the one psychic that I sort of have an ongoing relationship with. I also wrote a book at one point that has not been published. It's sitting on a shelf somewhere. But it was it was a young adult fiction about a teenage psychic coming into her psychic abilities. And I worked with another psychic who I've never met in person. This was all over the phone. It's all very interesting. And she is more into sort of the demon busting side of things. She definitely has more of a Christian base. I doubt she considers herself that, but certainly her Christian upbringing shadows, her belief. She believes in demons, she believes in angels, and she believes in, she'll describe it as, people getting an attachment. Yeah. And that she's come in and removed demons from people. And I liked sort of, I don't want to paraphrase for you, but, what are your thoughts on sort of dark energy or demons versus...
Yeah, I'm not saying that energy doesn't exist, because I don't know that to be true one way or another for myself and my experience. Right. What I do believe to be true is that the energy in this universe is inherently neutral. And there is energy that is either beneficial or non-beneficial for us. So I kind of look at it this way. We eat food, and the food is neutral, right? Then we eat it, but if it stays on our teeth, it becomes non-beneficial because it turns to plaque. We need to remove it. And I think that sometimes people are looking at energy through the lens of their own fear, their own upbringing, their own personal experience. And so, I think that we can easily look at something like grief or fear or imposter syndrome and easily go, that's a demon. And I think sometimes labeling energy as negative or a demon, it's lazy. I think it can be really lazy, because I think that as humans, we're so complex and we have such complex emotions. And so if we're experiencing an energy that feels non-beneficial, amazing. What is it? Can we name it? Where is it in the body? Where are we holding on to it? What is that feeling trying to tell you? Right. And how can you clear it? So I'm not saying that energy doesn't exist. I believe in this universe all things are possible. I'm saying I don't think it's as common as people say it is.
There's not demons lurking.
No, no, and I have friends that do like hauntings and clearings, and they do other things, and I believe in the work that they do. But even they'll say, like 99% of what they see is actually just built up energy that needs cleared.
That's fascinating. Are you a scary movie person?
I used to be.
Okay.
Ever since so much has changed in my life since I've started doing this work. I don't walk around wearing all white and like a cross necklace, like blessing everywhere I walk. But there are certain things I can't watch scary movies. Like, they just feel weird to me now. And I'm not saying they're bad or anything like that. For me, it just doesn't. They don't feel right in my body anymore, which makes me so sad, because I loved scary movies.
When did that change?
About like a year ago. I tried sitting through like one of the Scream movies, and that was like my favorite scary movie franchise. I would watch Scream 24 if they created it. Sidney Prescott could be 98 years old.
It's coming.
And, and I would still watch, but I watch it and I just get like in my body, I just get uneasy. But
Well, Well, I asked because we just recently saw. Have you seen a preview for Late Night with the Devil?
No.
It's an Australian movie. They're not Australian, but it's out of Australia.
Okay.
It's a very cool concept. It's almost feels like you're watching a play. It's one set.
Okay.
It's supposed to be this found footage type movie where they film this late night TV show, and supposedly this woman is bringing this girl in who's possessed by the devil, and shit goes down. And it's getting really great. It's fun. It's a very fun movie. It's getting very good reviews. But it was funny. My boyfriend and I, were walking out of the theater. He's like, I liked it, but I don't find it scary. And I was like, well, I think the difference is whether you find the devil scary or not. I mean, if you're not out there with already sort of a belief / fear in a devil, it sort of takes all of the, possession fear out of it. But I do like your thought of demons or dark energy just being sort of, stress or anxiety or bad juju or whatever you want to call it. Everybody's saying the same thing, but yeah.
And it takes away its power when you just say, this is non-beneficial energy for me, without diving into, I think it's important to name what we're feeling, right? But, we don't want to go into, the story of something. But if we're experiencing anxiety, hey, this is energy that's non-beneficial for me. How can I lean into something that feels better? It's so much easier to pull yourself into something that feels better than giving it all of that power, right? Because you start going oh, it's the devil, it's a demon. You start creating this energy around it, whether you're intending to or not, that makes it bigger and scarier than what it probably is.
Tell me a story. Tell me one of
okay, which one do you want?
Yeah, tell me a really good one as far as a reading, something that's come through a reading or something that didn't necessarily make sense in the moment, but sort of later come at.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that, there's some beautiful things that happen in readings. One of my most favorite stories to tell is there was this young lady who came to me, and we're on her reading, and we're in Zoom, and I do my readings from my home office, and my bedroom is across the hall, and we're on her reading, and she's, she lost both of her parents, and so we're connecting with them, and I'm sharing all of these things with her, and, it's all validating. She understands it all, but she looks at me and she goes, Travis, I just wish that I could hear my parents say hi one more time. And then my Alexa, all the way in my bedroom, goes, hi. And then she goes, I kid you not, she goes, what was that? And I was like, that was my Alexa. And then she goes, and then you hear it go, hi. And she goes, does that happen regularly? I go, no, that's the first time that's ever happened. And then she goes, from the day I booked my appointment with you, my Alexa has been saying hi randomly to me.
Wow.
And that was one of the most beautiful moments. And I looked at her and I go, well, your parents are saying hi to you again. And I think that one of my most favorite things about the work that I do is, yes, the getting the evidence about the spirit and all of that stuff. It's important for the work that I do so the people who I'm reading for know who I'm talking to, right? And know that I'm not just pulling their leg. But to be able to just bring that energy forward and somebody feel their loved one in the room with them. And it's so healing for them. And then, of course, I get folks who I'll give them information during a reading, and they won't understand what's coming through at the moment, but then they validate it later. There's a client that I have who I had brought up this name, and I was like, your loved one is giving me this name connected to someone connected to them. And she goes, I don't understand that name. I'm not sure who that person is. And then a couple months later comes back and goes, oh my God, I have the craziest thing to tell you. And I was like, try me. And she goes, we just found out through Ancestry that my loved one had a child that no one knew about. And we just found out about this 2 months ago, and it's the name you gave me.
Wild.
And so, things like that will happen as well. So there's been some really cool moments, but I think just some of my favorite moments are just when people were sitting together and they can feel their loved ones with them. I was doing some press yesterday, and I was doing a reading for someone from a publication, and you know, she was like, is there anyone around me right now? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I've got this mother figure here for you, this grandmother. And she was like, oh my God, that's my favorite grandma. And then I was like, yeah, she keeps talking about your ring. And she goes, this is her ring. So we have like those like really cool moments too. But, you know, but then there's those really sweet moments like with the Alexis. So
any time you've ever been with somebody, because it does sound like you don't fuck with the demon busting. You don't get into the bad, you don't get into the bad vibes. But so you do. It does sound like you try to sort of maintain in a positive space and healthy energy. But that shit has gone south with somebody, or somebody's lost their shit, or
I have had clients who, you know, I have to be honest. I have been so blessed with amazing clients. The only client stories that have been like kind of tough with clients is clients who they had a tough relationship with the loved one that's coming through. You know, I'll get people who I'll be like, oh my God, I've got your dad here. And I'm not, you know, I'm just like, oh, I got dad. But then I'll feel this like chill come over me. And then I'll find out that the person was abused by that person that came through. Or they didn't have great memories about this person. And so that's always it's a little tough, because I know and trust that that person is coming, that soul is coming through to apologize, to help in the healing process, whatever it is. But, you know, for the client, you know, they come in thinking like we're getting grandma, and it's like, oh, sorry, I have your abusive father here. But, you know, but they always get that healing in that moment. But I feel very lucky. I've never had like a client, like I don't have any kooky client stories, just some tough moments, but I think that's to be expected.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you're based out of Tacoma, Washington.
Yeah.
Do you do any traveling? I mean, you're in New York right now, obviously, but
yeah, I've got so I actually am doing a show in Philadelphia on May 31st. And so I'm doing that, and then we've got some more traveling coming up that I can't really share yet, but we've got like a little mini tour.
What is the show in May?
It is at this Cardinal Hollow Winery, I think is the name. I knew you were going to ask me, and I just totally blanked on it. But
we can like dub it in later, so we'll say the name like that.
Exactly, and then it's at a small. It's at a small winery, so it's a very small, intimate VIP event. We're only doing like 75 people there. And
so you'll be doing readings live? Or?
Yeah, I'll be doing readings live. I've got a show in Tacoma at the Blue Mouse Theater on May 16th as well. So we'll be doing live mediumship, which is really cool to see. Because I just walk around a theater and I start pointing at people, and I'm like, oh, I got your mother here, you know. But, you know, so it's really cool to be in those spaces and deliver those messages, because there's so much healing that happens in those. So I've got those two events coming up that I'm really excited about. And then more to come.
I'm going to pause for a second. I never set the timer, so I have no idea how the song... How long?
32.
32, cool.
I could talk to you all night.
What do you want to talk about?
Whatever you want to talk about.
We talked a lot about the media and stuff. Do you want to talk about growing up in Ohio?
Yeah, more of the gay stuff. Yeah,
let's talk about gay stuff.
All right. Okay, so we've talked about the medium stuff. Where were you when you came out? Were you living in? What was the exact moment you knew you were gay?
I actually did. I do have an exact moment.
Okay.
I do. I was in 7th grade. Okay, so here's the deal. I've always known I was gay. I just didn't have like a language for it. So, like, I came out of the womb with, like, heels and lashes on, pretty much. Well, I was a C-section baby, but you get the point. No, so I was in...
Star gay.
Yeah,
Or platinum. Is that what they call
it? Platinum. And so...
I guess I am, too.
And, no, like, I was in the hallway in 7th grade, I remember, and I was like, oh, my God, I like men. And there was no, like, there wasn't, like, a Chris O'Donnell dressed as Batman poster in front of me to, like, you know... inspire that. I was just walking, I was like, oh my God, I'm gay.
Yeah.
And so I lived with that for a bit, and then I came out to my parents. I came out like 3 times.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't always take the first time.
Well, no, it doesn't. And then I came out at like the ages like 14, 16.
Oh, young.
And like 17. Yeah. Like I just I've never been masculine. Like, I've just always been, like, this way, which is totally fine. I love who I am.
Right.
But I've just always been, a little sugar in the tank. But I came out. And then when I came out, my mom had a tough time with it. My parents were divorced. And so, my mom and I decided that it would be best if I lived on my own. So my senior year of high school, I lived on my own. And
Wow.
I was this shocks people when I tell them. So I finished my senior year of high school. I worked in a nightclub. I was gotta love Ohio. I was a go-go dancer, bathroom attendant, drag queen, and then I did, like, sex work for a little bit too.
Okay.
And so I did, like, those things, and then I, like,
It's good
finished.
to diversify.
Well, you have to have a portfolio. And so the bar did tell me, like, they're like, you can't go dance anymore because you just, like, flip your head around and lip sync to the song. So we're just gonna put you in a wig and heels. And I was like, great, that sounds amazing. So I did that to, like, support myself to get through my senior year of high school.
So you were doing sex work while you were still a senior in high school?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. It was a couple of times. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I have full respect for it. But, when you're like 18 and working in a nightclub and it's presented to you and it's like, here's a couple $100 and you're starving, you'll do it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And still managed to get yourself up and go to school and graduate?
Well, I barely graduated. Like, it was like I think it came down to, like, an English essay of whether or not I was going to graduate. I graduated.
I thought you could have written one hell of an essay at that point, though.
I mean, I graduated with, I think, like, a 1.4 or 1.6 GPA. It was pretty wild.
And then, where'd you go did you go to college?
I was a non-traditional student. I did business school, like, online, right before the pandemic hit. I was like, I'm going to get my bachelor's degree, because at the time I was like, I'm going to be a VP of sales in cosmetics. Like, that was, like, my goal. And I know. And so I finished business school. Even when I, like, left that job, I still stayed in school and I finished it. So I have a business degree, but it's,
And then how'd you end up in Washington?
By car. I moved. I moved there in 2017 when I was working for the cosmetics company.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you like the area? Do you want to
I
stay?
love it. It's so witchy. It's so witchy, and I love it so much. So yeah, no, I do love it there. I don't know if I'll stay. Well, never say never.
Right.
I never thought I'd end up out there. So actually, a psychic told me that's where I was going to end up.
Huh. Well, it sounds like you've got a lot of things in the works right now. So
Yeah.
I want to have you back at some point, because there's so much going on that that we can't talk about yet. But I think it's so cool that you've just kind of had the perfect storm in the last couple of years, that your career has taken off. His Instagram page is a whole lot of fun. Check it out. So I do want to ask, though, do you, is it one post a day that you usually do? You do one sort of reading every day?
Yeah, one, like, channeled message a day. Mm-hmm. And then, like, maybe something else. I'm not, like, the best. I went on like a social media strategy podcast, and I was like, I have no idea why I'm invited to this. And so, but I went because I really liked the host. But, like, I go on, and she was like, so what's your strategy? And I was like, this is gonna, like, just drive you nuts. I don't have one. I just posted. But, like, I realize that, like, there are, like, I totally respect people who have, like, their posting schedule and all of that. I'm like, once a day, 3 p.m., here you go.
Well, yours makes sense. I mean, like, I wake up every morning and check my horoscope. It's just one of the things I do. So it makes sense that once you've started building your following, that they're going... What time do you post it?
Like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which I know is, like,
so
such
it's not a morning thing. Yeah.
No, it's such a random time. I honestly don't know why I picked that time. It's just when I post. So, and I do my best. Like, I try to respond to comments and stuff like that, and DMs. It gets to be a lot.
Yeah, sure.
And, like, I don't know, my body, I don't know about you, but, like, when I read comments, my body starts to go into, like, fight or flight. So, like, because, like,
I'm fortunate. I don't have a lot of comments that I have to worry about.
I feel so grateful. 99% of the comments I get are so kind.
That is
They're
lucky.
so kind.
Well, Well, you're mainly putting kindness out there. I mean, it's not like you're doing anything to
you get the
warrant.
Yeah, but like my body does go into like fight or flight a little bit. Like when I'm like reading through comments and then, you know, I'm just like, oh God, there's gonna be the one. Right. And it, you know what? It's few and far between.
And probably mainly like what, non-believers and naysayers for the most part, or
which is totally cool. Yeah, I get the occasional like, you're really gross, and I'm like,
you can do better than
thanks.
that.
What
kind of troll are you?
Yeah, I had this like guy who like left me these like really wild comments and then would like DM me, and then like I blocked him eventually. Yeah. But but I liked the engagement, so I was like, keep commenting. No, but you know, I feel very fortunate. I get very little bit of that, but you know, I still kind of makes me tense when I check comments. So.
Well, I'm so glad I did look like we weren't going to be able to make the interview happen, and then we did.
Yeah.
It's midnight in New York right now, and both of us have had very long days, but we made it happen. And shout out to my producer, Brennan, because it was his idea, and so I'm so glad we got to do this. Check out, say it again, Travis Warrior Unicorn.
Yep.
Okay, is the Instagram. Travis Holp. This has been amazing. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. I need the attention. And we'll be back next week with another fabulous gay human being. Bye, y'all.
It's Drew Tessier's mostly queer comedy show.